Okay, so this is the video for the Unit 6 review. Okay, so this says match each of the following geometric terms with its appropriate description. Write its corresponding letter in the bit blank provided. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to go through these 4 shapes and just kind of draw them. That way we have a better idea. So a rhombus basically looks like a slanted square. Okay, we know what a rectangle looks like. A parallelogram is going to be kind of like a rhombus, but a little longer. And then you have your trapezoid that looks like this. And this will help us with these definitions. So a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. So you can see 1, 2, and 3. Those have 2 pairs of parallel sides. But a trapezoid just has the 1 pair of parallel sides. Okay, so A is going to go with trapezoid. B, a quadrilateral with 4 congruent sides. Okay, so a rectangle and a parallelogram, those have all different sides, but a rhombus, all 4 sides are congruent. So that's going to be B. C, a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. Okay, so that's going to be our rectangle. It's going to have the 4 right angles. So that's C. And then a quadrilateral in which opposite sides are parallel. Okay, it gets its name because both sides are parallel, and so that would be your parallelogram. Number 5, it says the measure of GAC. It looks like on here there's a G missing. But GAC, that's going to be this angle here, is that whole thing is 130, and it wants me to find ACF. So this angle right here. Okay, so what you need to know about this parallelogram is that your consecutive angles are going to be supplementary, which means they're going to add up to be 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 130, and that's going to get me 50. Number 6, if the measure of CAG, so CAG, this whole angle here, is A plus 12, and then it tells me that ACF, it's this angle here, is A plus 10. It wants me to find A. So this is actually very similar to the last problem. Those 2 angles are going to be supplementary. So I'm going to have A plus 12 plus A plus 10 equals 180. So that's going to get me A plus A is 2A. And then 12 plus 10 is 22 equals 180. I'm going to subtract the 22. So that gives me 2A equals, I'm going to pull up my calculator. So 180 minus 22 gets me 158. And then we have to divide by 2 to figure out what A is. So I'm going to go to my calculator, divide that number by 2, and we get 79. So C. Okay, this next one, number 7, if AG equals 5x minus 9, and CF equals 3x minus 1, find the value of x. So in a parallelogram, your opposite sides are congruent, so I'm going to set these equal. So 5x minus 9 equals 3x minus 1. I'm going to subtract the 3x. So I have 2x minus 9 equals negative 1. And then I will add 9. Negative 1 plus 9 is 8. I divide by 2. And so x is 4. Number 8. So find the values of x and y in the parallelogram. So you have to use what you know about a parallelogram. I know in a parallelogram, these are considered to be alternate interior angles, and so those are going to be congruent. So I'm going to have 2x plus 8 equals 3x plus 3. And I'm going to solve this. So what I'm going to do to keep my x positive, I'm going to subtract 2x. Okay, and then to move this 3 over to the left, I'm going to subtract that. So that's going to get me 5 equals 3 minus 2 is just 1x. So x is going to be 5. Now find the y, I know those two sides are equal. So I'm going to do 16 plus y equals 2y minus 4. I'm going to subtract this y, move it to the right. At the same time, I'm going to go ahead and add this 4. So I'm going to have 20 equals 2y minus y is just y. So y is 20. If you wanted to plug that back in just to make sure you got it right, you could do that. Okay, number 10. The measure of angle 1 is 56. Find the measure of angle 2. Okay, so this right here, it's saying is a parallelogram, okay, which means, okay, real quick, this is supposed to say, this needs to say that this is actually a rectangle because they're hoping you know that this is a right angle. Okay, so if that's 56, that means this piece is 56. And then that means that 90 minus 56 is 34. So that is B. Number 11, if xt equals 2y plus 1 and us, this long thing, is 30, find the value of y. So again, this is supposed to be a rectangle, and I don't think it says that. But in a rectangle, your diagonals are going to be congruent. And so what I know is that I could either say that this piece is 15 and this piece is 15, which means these also are 15. That's probably the easiest way to do this. So I'm going to say 2y plus 1 equals 15. I'm going to subtract 1. So 2y equals 14. And I'm going to divide by 2. So y equals 7. Number 12, if RS equals 40 and UT equals x plus 20, find the value of x. So I know that those two sides are equal, so I'm going to do x plus 20 equals 40. I can subtract this 20, and so x equals 20. 13, if the measure of BAC, so that's this angle here, is x plus 5, and the measure of CAD, so CAD, that's this angle here, is 4x plus 10. They want you to find CAD, which means we need to find x first. So what there should have said again is that this is a rectangle, which means I know those two angles are going to add up to 90. So 4x plus x is 5x. 10 plus 5 is 15 equals 90. I'm going to subtract the 15. So 5x equals 75. I'm going to divide by 5. And 75 divided by 5 is 15. Okay, now they do want me to find CAD, so that's 4 times 15 plus 10. 4 times 15 is 60, plus 10, so that angle is going to be 70. Number 14, the measure of BAC, so BAC is 3x, and the measure of ACD, that's this angle down here, is 40 plus 2x. Want me to find x. So again, this is a parallelogram, and if it's cut by this line, I know that those two angles are congruent. So 3x equals 40 plus 2x. I'm going to subtract the 2x, and that leaves me with x equals 40. Number 15, DEFG is a square, so find the measure of FDG. So that's this angle right here, okay? And what we know about a square is that this is a right angle. I also know that that angle is cut in half. And if the whole thing's 90, cut in half would be 45. 16, ABCD is a square, find AD. Okay, well I know all the sides are congruent. So just to find x, I'm going to do 9x plus 3 equals 11x minus 17. And I'm going to move my 9x this way to keep it positive. So I have 3 equals 2x minus 17. And then I'm going to add the 17. So I have 20 equals 2x, and divide by 2, and you get x as 10. Just be careful here because it's wanting you to find the side. So if I do plug 10 in, let's say 9 times 10 plus 3. 9 times 10 is 90, plus 3 is 93. If I were to check that down here and plug 10 in, it would also be 93 because this is a square. So AD is also 93. Just be careful that you plug the number back in. 17, GEOM is a square. Find the measure of MQO. So what you have to know here is that the diagonals in a square, those are all right angles, which means that is 90. Number 18, ABCD is a rhombus. Find AD. Okay, so rhombus means all these pieces are equal, kind of like that square problem we just did. So I'm going to have 7x minus 10 equals 5x plus 6. I'm going to subtract the 5x. So I have 2x minus 10 equals 6. I can add the 10 and move it over. So 2x equals 16. Divide by 2, and so x is 8. Again, make sure you reread the question. It says to find AD. Well, since all of these sides are congruent, I could plug that 8 in for any side. So I'm going to do it at the top. So 5 times 8 plus 6. So 5 times 8 is 40, plus 6 is 46. Number 19, ABCD is a rhombus. The measure of ABD is 42. Find the measure of BAC. So they're wanting this angle right here. Okay, so what we also know is that where this E is, that's a right angle. So that's 90. And now I have that triangle up there that I can figure out the third angle for. So I'm going to add 90 plus 42. And then if I subtract that from 180, that'll get me that missing angle, which is 48. And it was asking for BAC, so yeah, there it is, 48. Number 20, ABCD is a rhombus. And the measure of ABE is 24. Find the measure of ADE. So this angle right here. Okay, so again, this is a parallelogram. Okay, so I know that this angle is also 24. I know that these are all 90 degrees in the middle. And so what I can now do is I can figure out what some of these missing angles need to be. So, okay, so this is 90 right here, and 90 plus 24 is 114. Okay, if I subtract that from 180, so 180 minus 114, 180 minus 114 is 66. Okay, so that's this angle here. Okay, that also means that this angle here is 66. Okay, and we actually end up making a lot of the same triangles here. So if this angle here is, if this angle here, this is also going to be 66. All right, 21. The measure of the bases of a trapezoid are 12 and 14. What is the measure of the median? Okay, so I'm trying to find the length of this median. So what we do is we add the bases together. So B1 plus B2, and we're going to divide by 2. That's going to get me that median. Okay, so I'm going to have M equals 12 plus 14 divided by 2. So that's 26 divided by 2, which is 13. Okay, and just write that in there and see if that makes sense, and it does. Okay, the next one, MNOP is an isosceles trapezoid, and it says NO is parallel to MP. So I'm just going to put little arrows on here to show that. That means my legs that are congruent are going to be NM and OP. Okay, and it says the measure of M, so this whole thing here is 3x, and then the measure of P, so this whole thing here, is x plus 24. Okay, so what you have to know here is because these legs are congruent, that means the base angles are congruent. Okay, we have two sets of base angles. We have these in green. Those are a set of base angles because those are at the base. And then I have these in purple. Okay, which means I'm going to do 3x equals x plus 24. I'm going to subtract this x. So I have 2x equals 24. And divide by 2. And so x would be 12. 23, WXYZ is an isosceles trapezoid. So again, here's our congruent legs. And it says WY is 3a plus 18. And then XZ is 7a minus 10. So what this is expecting for you to know is that the diagonals in an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So I'm going to do 7a minus 10 equals 3a plus 18. Subtract 3a. So I have 4a minus 10 equals 18. I'm going to add the 10 now. So I have 4a equals 28. And divide by 4. And so a would be 7. Okay, this next section has to do with height. So compute the measure of G. So what you need to understand here is that all of these angles add up to be 360. Okay, because this is a quadrilateral. And these two angles in orange are going to be congruent. So if I don't know them, I'm just going to call them x right now. So x plus x, that's 2x plus 45 plus 150. That's going to be 160. Okay, equals 360. If I subtract 160, that's 2x equals 200. Divide by 2, and we have x is 100, which means that's what each one of these angles are. Number 25, choose the figure below which satisfies the definition of a kite. So a kite is, basically you're looking for the one that looks like a kite, but these two consecutive sides are congruent and these two consecutive sides are congruent. That makes it a kite. 26, so this is going back to what we did the first day. Calculate the measure of the missing angle. Hint, use that formula to find the sum of the interior angles. So you have to realize this is a quadrilateral, which we already know that quadrilaterals add up to 360, but I'm going to do this anyway. So 180 times 4 minus 2. So 180 times 2 equals 360. Okay, so I just need to subtract those three angles from 360, or add them all up and set them equal to 360. So I'm going to do 360 minus 108 also minus 80 and minus 65, and that leaves me with this missing angle is going to be 107. You can plug that in and add those all up again to make sure you did it right. 27. It's supposed to say, what is the measure of each exterior angle in a regular octagon? So remember, exterior angles add up to be 360. That's why it says use this 360 divided by n. So I'm going to do 360 divided by 8. And go to my calculator because I don't know that. 360 divided by 8 is 45. So each measure of the exterior angle in an octagon is 45. Okay, the rest of this is review. So find the value of x. These are vertical angles, so they are congruent. So I'm going to have x plus 55 equals 6x minus 10. I'm going to move this x this way. So 55 equals 5x minus 10. I'm going to add this 10. So I have 65 equals 5x. Divide by 5. And you get 13. And then last problem, 29, find the value of x. This is remembering that the exterior angle theorem, where the exterior angle equals the two interior angles that are not attached to it. So I'm going to do 120 equals x plus 50. I'm just going to solve this. So subtract the 50. So you have 70 equals x.